because you can't give more with less. And so many people try to give more with less, and it's mathematically and physically impossible to give more with less. And it's all a resistant mindset of zero sum that, if I ask him for help, then he's losing and I'm winning. I don't want to win. Or worse, I'm going to take from him because I want to win and he's a loser. That's not how it works.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. I am your host, Jeffrey Pinzon, and today for this episode we find ourselves in the heart of innovation and greatness. The most expensive stadium in the world, over $5.5 billion were invested into this stadium. Some of the most incredible sporting events have happened in this stadium, and unforgettable moments. And who better today to join us than the visionary entrepreneur, business consultant, author, keynote speaker, someone who has intensive experience in the sports marketing and who has truly unblocked his full potential and is teaching others how to unleash your power and go heavy in life. David Meltzer, thank you for joining us today, my man. Appreciate your time.
What a great intro, Jeff. I appreciate you.
Thank you for this. Is incredible, man. We have the whole team. By the way, man, your team is remarkable. Jake, shout out to everybody that works behind the scenes because they put all this together, and we're extremely grateful. I had the pleasure of having you at our first event, Go Heavy. Can you tell us a little bit about what was your experience in that event?
Well, I'm blessed to probably do 3 or 4 events a week on my mission to empower others to be happy, to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun, unleash their power, right? Yeah. Empower them to do things. And so I'm always a little bit concerned when it's a first event because, if you want to make God laugh, come up with a well-developed plan, and you can't plan for the unexpected. And so I've seen a lot of first events, and fortunately, this one was in my backyard. Yeah. And I will tell you that of all the first-time events that I did, it was so well run. The quality of the speakers were extraordinary. But the one thing that stood out is the frequency of the community. Yeah. I talk about finding our frequency. Your frequency is your neighborhood. From the time I got there to the door to the time that I left, it was my frequency. It was a high, unleashed power, higher frequency. And so I've been, look forward to January. So count me in. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
because
we're getting them accountable right now in the podcast.
I want to be there because it's the right community, and it's a testament to the people that put that first time event on. Yeah. I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Yeah, it was incredible. I remember when I met you at backstage at another event, and when I was masterminding putting the event together, I'm like, man, David needs to be there. And again, got in contact. You were available, which was very fortunate of that because I know that you're constantly getting booked. So came out awesome, and so I'm very, very happy that you got to be part of it. So let's go a little bit back, David. Let's go back to who was David back in high school? Who was that young stud? Can you tell us a little bit about who he was and how your upbringing?
Yeah, well, I always call it a tale of 3 worlds, and that David in that world was a scarce David. I grew up with a single mom, 6 kids. She worked 2 jobs, packed my dinner in a paper bag just so we could eat. And I just wanted to be one thing, rich. I wanted to make my mom happy, do what she told me to do. She believed in the doctor, lawyer, failure philosophy. I got and believed into the more money I made, the happier I'd be, that money bought love and happiness category. Both scarce worlds, though, of not enough of anything for anyone. You got to fight for it. You got to compete for it. You got to lie, cheat, manipulate, steal for it, whatever it took for it. But I was going to do it, whatever it took to make money, because in that world of not enough, I grew up a victim. Everything was happening to me, and I was going to have to fight for every single thing that I was going to achieve. I'd have to fight for it and make it happen all by myself.
So how did you develop that hunger for you to get out and become rich and become wealthy and get out of that environment?
Well, I always said your purpose has to be greater than your pain. Not a lot of pain growing up, but I had a higher purpose, and I didn't know what that higher purpose was other than a desire to buy my mom a house and a car, My mom gave everything she could to her children, and I just wanted to give back to her. I wanted to thank her for the sacrifices that she made and how hard her life was. For me, I always say, if you want great in your life, it starts with hard. If you want amazing in your life, it starts with impossible. And I wasn't afraid of hard, and I wasn't afraid of impossible.
So what are some things that you started implementing for you to get cash, for you to get paid?
Yeah.
Get
So,
your mom there?
you know, I implemented great sales skill and knowledge, but I didn't have the situational knowledge of where to draw my line of integrity, right? I thought the ends justified the means. So like a lot of car salesmen, insurance salesmen, I oversold, back-end sold, lied, manipulated, and cheated. Although I held steady to keeping to my word of my mom, because my mom said I could do whatever I wanted to do as long as I graduated law school. So I was always a great student. I wish I was born with the same skills and knowledge that I have for being a great student as I did with athletics, because I would absolutely have been a professional athlete if I was born with that higher basement. But unfortunately, in athletics, I was born with a low basement. It was only that delta, that desire, that allowed me to be successful at any level as an athlete. But in classroom, I was already born. I didn't have to try. When I did, it was easy. But for me, I stayed focused in on making a lot of money to help my mom.
What were your first sales jobs that you had?
Well, my very first sales job, I've never met anyone that had the same one. I was pretty clever. Now, I have the world's worst voice, singing voice. No. I have a great radio voice. I got a great radio voice, great interview voice. But when this thing sings, it's not singing. And the only person I've ever met that has a worse voice than me is my younger brother. But I decided I would Christmas carol and raise money. Put out the thing, Christmas caroling. Okay. Never made a representation it was for charity, but just, held it out there. I think it may have been assumed that somehow it was for, Salvation Army or whoever. But my voice was so bad they would pay me to leave. And so I was only like 8 years old, and I remember coming home with like $130 from Christmas caroling from people that paid me to leave. Some actually told me, look, I'll give you $1 if you leave. Just stop singing. Yeah. But my real first sales job was when I was in high school. I sold educational systems. And basically they were encyclopedias. But what they did is it was like a $2,500 system, books, that it started with people that were pregnant with children, and you'd sell them books to read to the pregnant, and then every month new books would come according to how old the child was, and then eventually you would get a bookcase, an encyclopedia, by the time I think it was a 5-year program or whatever it was. Anyway, and I learned a lot from that. I leveraged my own personal situation. I'd brag about my siblings being, at Harvard, Penn, Columbia. My mom read to us. I'd tell the whole story. And then I learned about financing, right? Because they would buy the leads from the hospital of women who were pregnant, and then they would set 2 appointments a night that I'd go to and sit in the living room and talk about education with the credibility of being educated. And believe it or not, I was 18 years old going into college, and I made more money that summer than anyone at the company. In fact, a professional Chargers kicker, Peter Abbott, his dad was running the crew. So they literally would just drop you off to generate these sales. And
did you door to door or?
They had set appointments at night. So there was a 5:30 and a 7:30 appointment, usually close, because they would buy from the same hospital, and you would cover the one in your neighborhood. But I learned how much you could make in sales.
Yeah.
And so that was truly my first job that drove me to make the decision when I graduated law school. Did very well, got a law job at an oil company, making 150 plus bonus in 92. But I decided to be a sales guy instead in the internet.
What was the reason of you jumping into law, into the oil field?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because I talk about being more interested than interesting. When I went to college, I wanted to be rich. Yeah. So everyone that I saw was rich from where I was from was either a doctor or a lawyer.
Okay.
And so initially my older brother was a doctor, and he made a lot of money. So I thought, I'm good at school, so I'll just be a doctor. And my freshman year in college, I was pre-med. after the football season, I realized my freshman year I wasn't going to be a professional football player unless something significant happened to my strength and speed, which wasn't probably realistic. So I went to visit him at the hospital, walked in, and I looked at my brother. I'm like, man, I hate hospitals. He said, what? I said, I hate hospitals. He goes, David, you know you have to be in hospitals to be a doctor. I'm like, no, I'm going to be a sports doctor. I'll be in the locker rooms, right? The training facility, the sideline. He said, no, you idiot. And that's when he told me that line. You better be more interested than interesting. So I changed then to be a lawyer, but this time I was more interested. I did my research to find out what lawyers made the most money out of law school, because my only objective was to buy my mom a house.
Your desire was to make money.
Buy my house. Yeah. And I found out that oil and gas litigators made the most money. And I found out that Tulane Law School was the leading oil and gas law school in the country, that most of the kids got into the oil companies from Louisiana, big oil companies. Plus they taught international and common law for the U.S. So sure enough, I did everything it took to graduate in a position where, even though a lot of kids weren't getting those jobs, I was, but I always kept my mind open to making more money. Right. So when someone had an internet job for $250,000 at comp plan to sell legal research online in 1992 compared to 150, it wasn't a choice for me. The only hard part was my mom told me the internet's a fad, it'll never work. You're wasting. She wanted you to go to school too, right? Yes, want to be a real lawyer. I didn't drop out of law school. She made me take the bar. Wow. Because she was convinced that the internet would never work. Just so she knows now, the internet turned out to be okay. So I was a millionaire 9 months out of law school. Our first exit in '95, Thomson Reuters was purchased by Thomson Reuters purchased West Publishing for $3.4 billion. In 1995, which set my life in a different trajectory.
So what did that do to you, right? Like now you hit that desire, you wanted to have money, be wealthy, buy your mom a house, a car. You have that now. How did that shape your life? Because I know you mentioned earlier something about it's better to be interested than interesting. That's a philosophy that you've carried. Yep. How has that shaped your life in the way that you?
Well, for the next 10 years, what was interesting, looking back, it's always easier to look back and see what you learned. I did move from the world of not enough, but I lived in a different world that most people are fooled by, which is called the world of just enough. Just enough of everything for me. So you'll hear people that are optimists say, oh yeah, life happens for me, right? I'm blessed. God is good. Life happens for me. And I was in that realm where I would tell people, the more you give, the more you receive. Everything, though, for me was a trade or negotiation. It was still a scarce zero-sum game that I was playing. It wasn't an abundant world of more than enough. It was just enough. And although I had a lot, everything still was scarce.
Why was it, though?
Because it was a confirmation in my life that I believed that money bought love or happiness. So if I wasn't happy, I'd buy more things. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy different things. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy things to impress people. If I wasn't happy, I'd buy things to impress people I didn't even like. So money as a derivative of happiness was confirmed because I had so much of it. And so I always thought no matter what, that I was defined by that bank account. Even though I had more money than I ever dreamed of at a very young age, if my bank account went down one month, I was literally diminished in my own self-identity. If I had a good month, I was ego boost that I was the greatest, right? I was Muhammad Ali of money. And I actually had a nickname, Money, right? Midas, everything about money. And for 10 years, I lived in this world of just enough until I was blessed to learn the truth about money and about wealth and about abundance. Thanks to my wife and several other incidents in my life, I started to realize what the world of more than enough would provide for me instead of the worlds of not enough or just enough.
Got it. Let me ask you this, David, because I know that right now you touched on the power of you knowing that you have more within, right? There's a lot of power that is dormant within you. You knowing now what you know now, knowing what you know now today, what are some things that you could tell people that are starting in the entrepreneur space that they're going maybe through the same narrative, right? How do they change that narrative? How do they change that context and start living from a place like, I'm worthy, right? I do have what it takes, because sometimes it's hard, right, to get started. Like, there's a lot of obstacles that happen in life that you get stuck in that conversation that you don't want to move past it. Who helped you, or what were some rituals that you implemented to get out of that context?
Yeah, there's a few things. One was just the idea of a paradigm shift from getting more in a world of not enough and just enough to living in a world of more. So when I tell you that, most people live their life to get more happy, more healthy, more wealthy, and more worthy, where I shifted the paradigm to live in the world of more than enough, that I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, and I am worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? And that shift takes you from that zero-sum game of scarcity into a world of more than enough, of abundance, where you have faith in not only appreciating what you have, not only acquiring the knowledge of what you have by not having it anymore, but most importantly, to ask for help. You see, the biggest narrative is that radical humility comes from doing everything yourself, where actually radical humility is derived from living in a world of abundance, where you truly believe there's more than enough. Therefore, when you ask for help, especially from people who sit in a situation you want to be in, when you ask for help from those people, you're actually in a value add world, because you have so much faith that why won't I ask everyone else for help? Because there's more than enough. And now they can have more by helping me, because it's adding value to them by asking for help, which inherently I will be able to help more people, because you can't give more with less. And so many people try to give more with less, and it's mathematically and physically impossible to give more with less. And it's all a resistant mindset of zero sum, that, if I ask him for help, then he's losing and I'm winning. I don't want to win. Or worse, I'm going to take from him because I want to win and he's a loser. That's not how it works. There is a mindset, heart set, and hand set of abundance, and that is the paradigm shift that I help people with. And how do I do it? And it's a way, for your whole audience, is always, right, I will give you these 5 daily practices that changed my life. Okay. These 5 daily practices, note that they're daily. Right, my philosophy is to enjoy the consistent every day, persistent without quit pursuit of your own potential. In order to do that, I'll send anyone. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I'll throw a book in, even sign it, send it to you, pay for shipping in the book for your audience. Anyone that emails me, I'll send you all this stuff for free. Trust me. So here's what you do. You wake up in the morning in this abundant world of more than enough, and you say to yourself, okay, there's an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing, infinite, abundant, unified system of everything. And I'm part of that. And not only is there's this system of everything, but it knows everything and it loves me more than my mom. Therefore, I'm going to wake up today and say, okay, everything, this is what I want. Personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise. Everything that knows everything and loves me and protects me and promotes me. This is what I want personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise. And this is who I can help and who can help me. Number 2. Number 3, this is how I'm going to be productive, accessible, and gracious with my time to do, say, think, believe, and feel everything in the trajectory of what I think I want or better. So all of my time today in these daily practices are utilized to be productive, accessible, and gracious in a trajectory of a goal, a milestone, an outcome of what I think I want by doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling in that trajectory. And added, changing the meaning of my past, the lessons from the successes, failures, mistakes, setbacks, historical references, defining moments of my past, to not inhibit or to interfere with or hinder me, but to accelerate me, aggregate me, and allow me to have exponentially more greater outcomes from what? This wonderful source of everything that loves me more than my mom and protects and promotes me. So once I know my what, my who, and my how, I now know how to prioritize my now. 100% of the things you do now get done. If you know what to do now, you'll know what to do next. You have an antidote to the 2 biggest hindrances, the 2 biggest interferences between you and everything. What are they? Procrastination or feeling overwhelmed, based off of fear. Fear of what? Fear of the past or fear of the future. Resulting in what? Guilt or resentment of the past behaviors or anxiety or worry in the future. Contributed or supported by what? Your ego. The ego says, I have a need to be separate, inferior, superior. I have a need to be right, a need to be offended, separate, anxious, frustrated, guilty, angry. All these things are what? Hindering or interfering with my now. My now should be omnipresent in activity of doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling in a trajectory that accelerates, aggregates, and compounds its outcomes to what I think I want today in the trajectory of what I think I want in the future by defining the meaning I'm giving to the lessons of the past, which then allows me to live in the world of more than enough of why. So instead of searching for more happy, more healthy, more wealthy, more worthy, I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. I'm applying my why to what I believe, not searching for a why of what I believe. And that finest distinction creates a separation. It creates a differential in life when you do it daily. Because the three characteristics of daily activity are aggregation. When you do say, think, believe, and feel in a trajectory, more things that are aligned with that are going to aggregate together. The second characteristic is exponentiality of those actions of thinking, saying, doing, believing, and feeling. So you're going to get exponentially results. So every day, let's say you're +1, it's not going to go +1, +1, +1, and at the end of the year, you'll be +365. It goes +1, +2, +4, +8. You'll be at millions of increments farther.
Yeah.
And then the third characteristic is the one that appeases human nature. See, human nature believes that we want instant results. And guess what? People are mistaken. You do get instant results. You know what they're called? Progress. The problem is human capability does not allow us to see progress. So therefore, when we have good behaviors of doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling things in the right trajectory, we're unaware of it because we don't think there's any result because we're not seeing an outcome with our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and touch. It takes too long for the aggregation compounding. So the third characteristic helps us believe we're making progress because it creates acceleration. So we start seeing incremental or inklings of success or progress from good behavior. The more dangerous than not knowing there's instant result to good behavior, good progress is the instant result to good behavior. The biggest problem is what I see, bad behavior has an instant result. Called bad progress. But unfortunately, it takes just as long to see the outcomes. So you can spend your whole life drinking and smoking, telling all your friends, man, I've been doing this for 19 years. And then year 20, you have a heart attack and die or have cancer. And then everyone's surprised. No, they're not. You are.
Yeah. Man, this was powerful. I some of the takeaways that I just got right now, right, is first, knowing that you have everything that it takes. There's something out there greater that it loves you more than what you love yourself, right? Getting clear on what you want, right? Having that mental clarity on what you want and knowing that the past is just a stepping stones for the future, right? One of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at, they change completely.
Yeah, that's actually from Xander's.
Oh, Xander,
I study Wayne Dyer, and if you study Wayne Dyer deep enough, he'll admit, like, I don't remember in a couple of like Power of Intention, but later on in Erroneous Zones, he said Xander's was the first one he heard that said to change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. And if you study physics, quantum physics, and metaphysics, it's true in science as well. Yeah. The actual quark will change by the intention you give a molecule or a cell.
Yeah, that's profound. It's like now you have to change the way that you look at the things so you could start getting a different perspective and change the context, change the narrative, right? So from all that, David, I know that failure plays a big role in our lives. What are some failures, maybe one or two, that have shaped the way that you carry yourself in business and the way that you carry yourself with your personal relationships? Yeah,
so the first failure was my failure in my marriage, which thank goodness didn't result in divorce. So I wasn't living or taking stock in who I was or what I wanted to be. And I'm so grateful that my wife, although we had so much success financially and such a beautiful life, wasn't afraid to tell me the truth in jeopardy of losing everything. And if it wasn't for that lesson that day when I came home from lying to my wife at 5:30 in the morning at the Grammy Awards with Little John, and her tell me that she's not happy and she's leaving me, and I better take stock in who I was and what I want to become, or I'd end up dead, I wouldn't be here today. And so that was the first huge lesson about values. From that day, the next day actually, because I was pretty resistant the day that she told me, but the next day, I started living my life in a different trajectory, utilizing gratitude to give me perspective, gave forgiveness to give me ease, to understand the variation of dis-ease and ease in my life, accountability to take control of my own life, no more blame, shame, and justification, and then the ability not only to effectively communicate with others, to live with intellect, intuition, and inspiration, but more importantly, as you have notated and resonated, to be able to effectively communicate with the source, to live my life with the intelligence, the intuition, and of course the inspiration of the everything that protects and promotes me. And so, but for my wife, that was the catalytic event of my life to save it. The second one was more on the material business side, which was that as I was progressing in the right trajectory, 2 years after my wife set me forth on a different path or pursuit of my potential, I lost everything. I lost over $100 million.
Wow.
And it was as if the universe prepared me.
What year was that, David?
2008.
2008.
Yeah. So the universe prepared me with the values, and then when it felt that I had been practicing them long enough, it tested me to see my faith. And so the lessons of values in 2006, the lesson of faith in 2008, and literally I made decisions in the truth, in my pursuit, when I had every opportunity to live without gratitude, to be a victim again, to live without forgiveness and to hate everyone, to live without accountability and blame everyone, and especially to live without effective communication and live without intelligence, intuition, and especially inspiration. Those two defining moments of my past have the meaning today, 17 years from 2006, 15 years from 2008, have allowed me to have a meaning that has aggregated, compounded, and accelerated me into a place in a life that I couldn't even imagine. I started in 2006 with impossible. When you start with impossible, that allows you to live amazing. And I'm blessed to tell you today that I live an amazing effing life.
That's right. Yeah, you're an inspiration for all of us, David. And I, from everything that I'm getting, because from losing over 100 million, right, to be, you come from a place that for you to earn money, you do it at an unconscious competence level. You just do it automatically without even thinking about it. What can you share? Because I know, based on, I had written down that question, but I think you already answered it with, you got to have faith, right? Faith without works is dead too, bro. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. You got to trust yourself. You got to know that you have everything within you in order for you to get to that unconscious competence level and be able to get that back in much more, right?
Yeah.
So,
in time is the dependent variable to that faith. You know, a lot of people can't measure life versus measuring life circumstances. And so, you know, one of the things that have helped me understand faith is, instead of looking at how much faith do I have, that is a life circumstance judgment, I look at how much time do I spend outside of faith. So I call it a minutes and moments strategy. Do I get angry? I get kicked in the face 8 times a day, just like any other human being. I spend minutes and moments. If people knew, they know I'm active, but if they knew how many times and what I'm dealing with in between the activity I get paid for and the activity I don't get paid for, the personal things that go on, the same exact, you know, uncle dying of COVID, putting my mom into a home, you know, people cheating, lying, stealing, to me, employees, family members disappointing me. Every day this shit happens to me. The same it happens to all of you. The only difference between me and most people on earth is I refuse to spend but minutes and moments till I get back to ease. Why? Because I have faith.
Yeah, faith.
I have faith that life circumstances are nothing compared to the life and faith I have. Simply, there's something bigger than me that loves me more than my mom, and it knows everything. So I don't have to know why people die. I don't have to know why people get sick. I don't have to know why the deal didn't go through. I have faith outside of the minutes and moments that I get pissed off and I cry and I'm, sad or mad or whatever. Outside of the need to be offended because, my siblings didn't do what I thought they were going to do. Most of the time, I'm just at ease. And you know what I say? I'm going to choke up, but I say thank you. Thank you for protecting. I believe it. Not all the time. It's minutes and moments every day. But the reason that I live where you want to live is you can see it in my eyes. I know every fucked up thing that happens in my life, I'm being protected and promoted. I'm just not smart enough to figure it out.
Powerful. And that's how you're able to measure your faith as well, right? Because now you know that I'm out of context. I got to get back into the source, go back to it, trust the process. Everything is working in your favor. Powerful, David. I know that we're caught up on time. I have a bunch of other questions, but I want to
do another one sometime, man. I'll talk about it on stage.
yeah, we definitely need to have you back at Go Heavy because this time we're going to do it bigger, better, and I know that we want to give you more time on stage.
Please.
Because we only gave you, I think.
I need some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are getting a lot of value. I talked to a lot of people after the event, and a lot of people are still talking about it, and I asked them, I'm like, man, who stood out the most for you? David. Man, your voice, so soothing, the connection, so transparent. I'm like, dude, beautiful feedback. So
thank you.
This is a lot, and thank you because you're changing our lives. Like you're impacting tremendously many generations. So thank you for your time, for your contribution, for being in your power, and showing us what is possible when we step into our power because we're all capable of it.
You got to go ahead.
At another level.
You got to go heavy in every part or aspect of your life except for your weight.
That's right.
I'm going skinny. I'm going skinny on my weight. At 55, I'm heavy everywhere else except for my weight. So, because it's lunchtime.
We both are going to be fitted. All right, guys. Make sure that you guys tune in for the next podcast. I hope you guys got a lot of value from this episode. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Biggest waiting room in the world.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here and tune in. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on the notification, and share this with someone that could add value to. David, thank you so much, my man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.